Okay, welcome, gentlemen. Welcome, Barrister Team, Barrister Fro. I would like to believe that you're being able to resolve your connection. Like we started the program, Barrister Mbesia, I laid down a foundation for this evening's conversation, and it was simple. The idea is if there is a positive outcome between Russia and Ukraine, there are many sides to look into this. And the world is not very distracted with warmongers or war powers fighting over big territories. A lot of people have lost lives in Ukraine. Perhaps there will be an opening for people to listen more to Ambazonia. We just heard the president there reassuring the people that one of the reasons why the struggle has been internationalized, why offices could talk about it, why the US Congress would send out resolutions in our regards, why Cameroon will be kicked out of AGOA is because of diplomacy. Or there's so much for us to unpack this evening before the draft proper begins. Now, I'd like us to talk briefly. I begin with you, Barrister Mbe. Uh, um, I'd like you to set for this conversation, please. Barrister Mbe.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to set the ball rolling. But the issue is a little bit very complex for a very short period of time. If we are taking the cure
Yeah.
from what is happening in uh, in in Russia and their neighbor, and what happened yesterday with President Trump and President Putin, that will make us understand exactly what is diplomacy. We'll realize that the war is being fought not between America and Russia. Now, it is fought between Russia and a different country. But two people are trying, a third party called the United States is trying to make peace in a war that is not being fought in its own territory. Ukraine is not part of the United States. And so that makes us to understand exactly what diplomacy is all about. And again, from the narrative of Ukraine and Russia and the United States, in the narrative they told us, the Americans have changed their style from ceasefire to addressing the comprehensive issues at stake, which is, I can use that one to refer to Ambazonia, which has been, which you have told us to a million times over, addressing the root causes of the problem, like Ukraine, addressing the comprehensive issues at stake. But in terms of diplomacy, what we need to understand is that diplomacy is expensive. There's no free lunch. The Americans, President Trump, is not sitting there talking in defense of Ukraine for nothing. No, the Ukrainians have to pay a price for that. Remember a few weeks or months ago, President Trump said publicly that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has offered them some interest, mining their oil, whatever minerals they have there, in return for the United States helping them to end the war with Ukraine, with Russia, sorry about that. And so it tells you the price of diplomacy. That's the bottom line. They've been fighting the war between Ukraine and Russia was essentially the war. They started the war and they've been fighting it. But we find international people, others coming in. That's what makes it international. Different nations come in. But different nations don't come in for nothing. They come in with interests. They have an interest. It might be financial, it might be diplomatic, it might be strategic. But either way, those things cost money. Those things cost money. And so diplomacy is what it is. And if you say what the president said, there are many things he will not tell you. There are many things he will not say. But at the end of the day, there are many things you will see at the final day. which is a result of diplomacy. And so for us, what we've learned about that is that the world is not an island. Cameroon and Ambazonia, they are not island. They are not isolated completely from the world. They will come to us. People will come to support us when they have an interest. And they will only have an interest. We will go there to sell to them what we have to offer them as the price of their support, as a reward for their support. That is not going to come cheap. It's not going to be free, which is the essence of diplomacy. It is the essence of what we are trying to do today. And let us be reminded again, Ambazonia is not an island, we're part of the world. And the problems that we face were in fact created by the international community, which international community is aware of what is going on. They are very, very aware. But nobody will come in until you are reminded of the interest. Very few people come in for something that they don't care. If you're driving your car down the street and you see a house on fire, you are not just going to park your car and jump into the fire. No, you would do that. Probably you know that that is your friend's house. His family is being burnt. Then you say, oh, this is my friend's house. You jump in the process of saving his family. Maybe you die yourself. But you not jump into every street and just do that. No, you must have an interest to do that. The fire will be burning, people will be passing, others will come and jump into it to put out the fire. Some of them will succeed, some of them will bear injuries before they succeed. And that's why, and as far as we are concerned with this draft, let us be reminded this is the United States. Diplomacy in the United States is very, very complex. Complex, not because it's difficult. Complex because of
Very,
the changing nature
very,
of American
very,
politics.
very
So
as well.
look at that. What we're doing yesterday, just 36 months ago, with Biden, is not what we're going to do today with Trump. What we did with Trump before Biden is not what we did with Biden when he came in 10 years ago. And so we have to keep this diplomacy vibrant. We have to keep it active. And then let the president who are handling it know the strategies to use with different governments that come into the United States. Because they shift with their policies as well. Over to you.
Yeah, we prior to this time we have discussed the shifting tides, the shifting global order, and today our interest was more on this possible deal, which will mean that the world will be less distracted. Also, there are nations recognizing Palestine. The dynamics is kind of complex, like you would have said it. Nobody could have said it even better than that. But this is something I told you to set the tone. And you set the tone in such a way that will make Ambazonians to think about the oil deal in London. You know the oil dealer in London, do you remember? You're telling Ambazonians we need to strike a deal. I'm just trying to bring some fun into the conversation. Ukraine has resources in control of that they can mortgage for their freedom, for America's intervention, unwavering intervention. Barrister Fru, we still have hijackers over our resources, which means that it is literally not very feasible for us to go into any negotiations bargaining with those resources. Else, will not the president will not be inviting people tonight to try to get them put resources together. So let's look at all of these and talk really quickly. Like I said, we have so much to impact this evening, and we want to look at one key, what the chiefs and what all the senators are doing in Ambazonia ahead of the election, because that is all intertwined with the purpose why Ambazonians are here tonight. Barrister Fru, please.
Yes, buddy. You remember on this network, I used the word transactional diplomacy. That is what Trump has introduced into his diplomatic outreach in all what he does now in foreign policy. Listen, Paddy, we don't. You raise an issue there. We are still fighting the hijackers that have hijacked our resources. If anybody wants to engage with us in transactional diplomacy, he must give us the means to liberate ourselves and have what is ours before we can transact. Right now, hijackers are on our own, taking everything away. La Republic is surviving because of our oil. They have hijacked our resources. Until we can fight and get it back, we cannot transact on those resources. So what does that mean? It means that if anybody is interested in helping us, you must first give us the means to be in control of our resources, then we can transact. Paddy, something happened yesterday. You see, the United States has signed an agreement with Ukraine to take 50% of their resources and intend to liberate them from the Russians. Now, yesterday, the United States met with the Russians, and nothing came out of it. No ceasefire, nothing was given, no give and take. We will shake hands and talk about business and talk about diplomacy. Is that not going to impact on the transactional diplomacy that the United States engaged in Ukraine? I don't know. But we are all looking at what the world is turning to. Having said that, this international community was responsible for where we are today. It is only moral that they rectify what they didn't do, and then when we get into our own sovereignty, we will have our resources to transact with. We are caught up in a catch-22 because we do not own our own resources that are on our land, the land of our birth, because hijackers are on it. The first is La Republic of Cameroon, not to talk of those who are drilling there, the Chinese, the Russians, and the French. Of course, they are coming through La Republic of Cameroon. So what do we have to transact? We don't have. Until somebody gives us the means to have to drive away the hijackers before we can transact. So we are caught in a catch-22. Yesterday was very telling because
I think it is a little bit early, Barrister Fru, for us to draw conclusions because
I'm
less than
not drawing.
24 hours.
Listen.
Yeah.
I'm not drawing any conclusion. I am analyzing our situation. Is it not true that our resources are being hijacked? Yes, it is
No,
true.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about something else. You're correct. Our resources have been hijacked. That's no news. I'm saying that it's just a few hours after the summit. We are still observing the stories very clearly to see how things will change. We don't expect overnight change,
No.
but
Buddy,
yeah,
buddy. I watch CNN on a regular basis. I watch MSNBC. I watch Fox News. I get all together. From yesterday, nothing actually took place. It was
yeah, no,
all
no, no.
talking about.
I'm trying to agree with
No,
you.
hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. It was all talking about business and diplomacy. Very little of diplomacy, but majority business. And everybody shook hands and laughed and went home. How
But
does that help? How does that help?
get Mr. Afro, get what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying it is a little bit too early for conclusive statements to be made. The fact that there was a conversation, it's a good start, and the fact that the Ukrainian president is planning a trip to Washington, it's another great move. And the fact that Putin promises to invite President Trump to Moscow for a next session of a conversation is a good start. It cannot be overnight. That notwithstanding, our interest here is if there is a positive outcome, will that the distraction the world is claiming, because we've heard even the president a couple of times says that the world is so busy, either with the war in Israel or the war in Ukraine, and funding, even when we're trying to assist the refugees in Nigeria, funding, UNHCR is claiming that they cannot longer give them food because funding has been conveyed to the Middle East or to Ukraine. So we are looking at it speculatively to see if something can come out.